Today is the 4th of July. Yes, we're going to be celebrating it and having a bit of a laugh with our American friends, but mostly as an excuse to have a look at what's happening in terms of the economy, in terms of the stock market, and of course, in terms of energy. That's why we cross live now to Washington, D.C. with the global energy expert at Carnegie Endowment, Justin Dargin. Justin, good morning. Thanks for staying up late to speak to us.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Always.
So I've seen your thoughts on the US economy at the moment, and one of your comments that jumped out at me was a prevailing sense of gloom. Tell us more.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting because if you look at the data itself, the inflation rate has decreased from a high of about 9.1% last year, roughly, to about 4%. If you look at the consumer confidence, it's at its highest level since January of 2022. Also, if you look at the price of gasoline per gallon, that has decreased by over $1 from last year. So it's about $3.50 or so, the average across the country. So if you look at it in that way, you can see that the primary indicators have been improving. But if you talk to the average American, there is a sense of pessimism, I guess you could say, about where the American economy is going and the state of global affairs. So we have about 70% of Americans by various polls indicate that they are extremely pessimistic about the future outlook for the U.S. economy, and about only 1 out of 3 Americans are satisfied with the Biden administration's handling of the economic situation. So you have these two contrasting views in the U.S., and even though things have been on the uptick, there is still a bit of fear about what the future holds.
I know one of the things you were looking at was the visit recently to the United States by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Energy was one of the issues discussed, by no means the only one. What were your key takeaways?
Yeah, well, fundamentally, you can see that security was the major concern, and that's what is keeping the Indian policymakers and U.S. policymakers up at night with how to fundamentally counter a rising and much more assertive China. So, that's the overarching picture of how the U.S. policymakers and Indian policymakers were looking to try to coordinate and try to work together. But fitting within that, of course, you have this concept of friendshoring. So due to the rising tension between the U.S. and China, and also the perceived threats to the critical mineral supply chains and so on, the U.S. is considering to bring on board countries in which it considers to have a type of friendlier relationship, and try to move or offshore some of its production there. And India fits that role quite nicely for U.S. policymakers. So we can see overall, even if we talk about energy or if we talk about collaboration in terms of space exploration or so on and so forth, it's still security is a major concern between U.S. and Indian relationship moving forward, which, of course, President Biden has termed the defining relationship for the 21st century. So it's still this relationship, but we will see how it's going to turn out moving forward.
Finally, let's talk about energy, which is your speciality. You've been looking at the recent OPEC Plus cuts. Saudi Arabia, over the past 36 hours or so, extending its cuts of 1 million barrels a day, albeit by only 1 month. It seems to be a rolling system. Russia is playing a part in that as well. How did you read this one?
Well, I read that Saudi Arabia is really trying to create a type of robust price floor, because the previous cuts that it undertook really failed to have any type of lasting impact. And we have to look at this from the perspective of Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia has been investing billions of dollars to facilitate its macroeconomic transformation and to try to head off, let's say, the clean energy transition, or try to, rather, I should say, make its economy much more viable in the clean energy transition. So Saudi Arabia needs about $80 per barrel as a break-even price in order for it to meet its budgetary expenditures. And so far, the price has failed to reach to that level for a bit of time. So Saudi Arabia is hoping, and Russia as well, with these particular cuts that are being extended, and Russia, of course, is going to reduce its output by about 500,000 barrels per day, that there will be some form price floor that would be able to be implemented that would add some stability to the global oil market.
what about the energy industry in the United States? On the one hand, America wants lower oil prices because they want to pay less at the pump when filling up their cars. On the other hand, one of the world's major oil producers and therefore wants a higher price, particularly as fracking is not a cheap way to get the stuff out of the ground.
Right. That has always been the perennial debate within the U.S. I mean, so you have many of the oil-producing states, of course, much of their tax revenue and also their employment is focused upon the oil sector. But then, of course, you have the majority of the U.S. If you look at the manufacturing industry and also just the basic consumer, they want to have lower prices. So in the U.S., we don't have a national oil policy such as you have in most other countries. So as a result, there is this divergence. There is this type of conflict, I suppose, with these two views, on the sense that you do want to have oil prices to be at such a level that it doesn't destroy the U.S. oil industry, but at the same time, you don't want prices high enough where the average consumer is going to be harmed. So there's that fundamental sweet spot that let's say the U.S. government will want to be had, which would be able to balance those two views.
Justin, thanks very much indeed. I think where you are, it's not quite the 4th of July yet, is it? An hour or two to go?
Yes, about an hour, but already I can hear fireworks outside of my house. So, yeah, so people are getting ready.
Thanks for staying up to speak to us. Enjoy the day, and we'll speak to you again soon. The thoughts there of Justin Dargin joining us live from Washington, D.C. on the eve there of the 4th of July, global energy expert at Carnegie Endowment.